In the real estate brokerage business, the clients are represented by two separate yet equally important parties. The agent representing the seller and the agent representing the buyer. Here are their stories.
Welcome to another episode of Law and Contracts. In today's episode, we're going to bring you a story about a transaction that went awry because a listing agent didn't pay attention to what was in paragraph 2 of the 1-to-4 family residential contract. In this case, the buyer and the seller were all set to close the very next day. The buyer was doing the walkthrough of the property with his agent, only to discover that the water softener was missing. Now, this was a very expensive built-in water softener system. So the buyer's agent called the listing agent and said, "Hey, where's the water softener?" And the listing agent said, "What do you mean, where's the water softener? Sellers took it with them." And the buyer's agent said, "Well, they weren't supposed to. It's part of the contract." And he said, "No, it's not." The buyer's agent said, "Yes, it is." Well, this went back and forth for a little while, and eventually the seller's agent came back and said, "Well, if you wanted the water softener, you should have said something." And the buyer's agent said, "Well, we didn't have to say anything because it is written as an improvement in paragraph 2 of the contract." Well, what complicated this transaction was that the buyer was also selling a home the very next day as well. They were going to sell one and purchase the other the next day. So they had a difficult decision to make. They either move forward and purchase the house without the water softener, or if they held up closing, it was going to cause a problem because of the domino effect of selling the other home, and then they would be homeless. In the end, the buyer did attend closing the next day and closed on the transaction. The buyer was compensated, but not with the good quality water softener that was existing in the home at the time the contract was written. So the moral of the story is this, agents. When you are writing a contract, or if you're a listing agent and you're receiving a contract for your seller, pay close attention to what is written in paragraph 2 of the contract. It contains the improvements and the accessories that stays with the property after closing and becomes the property of the buyer. The seller cannot remove any of these items unless it is written as an exclusion in the contract in paragraph 2. That is all for today's episode. Join us next time on Law and Contracts, where we will bring you another very interesting and entertaining story.